This is the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services.
Glad to have you here with us on the Retirement Key with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services. You can start the conversation with Abe and his team anytime at theretirementkey.com. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well to get a whole plethora of information. And speaking of plethora of information, don't want you to forget about your copy of the book, The Retirement Mountain, The 7 Steps to a Long-Lasting Retirement, written by Abe himself. It is a short read, about 90 pages. If you were looking for some financial advice, some financial planning and guidance as your New Year's resolution, this is a great place to start, particularly for folks in their late 50s, early 60s thinking about retirement, or maybe thinking about the lack of planning for the retirement that they've done.
Right.
Something you and I always talk about, a 401k is not a retirement plan, unfortunately, despite what it's unfortunate because of the lack of education that Americans have.
Correct.
The financial illiteracy that we have, Abe.
Right.
Which I know is a big motivator for why you wrote the book. Big question that people have in retirement is, how am I going to essentially, quote unquote, replace the paycheck of my employer for the past 20, 30, 40 years? And it's not lost on me. You know, you call it the 7 steps to a lasting retirement. So chapter 11 is where you start listing out these steps. Step 1, develop a retirement income plan. It's like, because it's the most important thing.
Yep. Yeah. How can you retire if you don't know what's coming in and you don't know what your expenses are and you don't know if your income is going to exceed your expenses?
Exactly.
It's pretty basic and simple, but you'd be surprised. More than 9 out of 10 people that walk into our office that are not a client of ours don't have one done.
Yep. Well, again, more about this book. If you want to read a copy, you can download a digital copy. It's available on Amazon. Or if you set an appointment and come in, we will give you a free copy of the book. Learn all about those things. Just go to theretirementkey.com, click on the media tab, and select book to learn more there. Let's talk about income, because once upon a time, for a lot of Americans, it was all about that good pension that we relied on for our retirement years. It delivered a portion of income for life, but pensions inevitably got too expensive for companies to manage. So they've done what we all know. They have turned to 401k type plans, TSPs or another option, things like that, IRAs. As a savings vehicle. A survey by Greenwald Research actually, though, recently shows, Abe, that 90% of Americans are worried that their 401k will not provide a reliable income stream that can withstand inflation, and more than 80% now want guaranteed lifetime income, just like pensions once offered. So let's have this discussion. What can we do? What are our options? How do we do better?
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me, right? That Americans are worried 401ks won't provide, guaranteed reliable income, because 401ks are an accumulation tool.
Right.
They are a tool for Americans to save money. Same with TSPs and IRAs, 403bs, SEP IRAs, all these things. These are accounts for people to put money away into to get matching contributions, oftentimes sock money away and let those things grow. They're growth tools. They're accumulation tools. They are some of the biggest accounts we'll have. But a growth tool is not the same as an income tool.
Right.
And, you really need a combination of both. You need accounts that can get you out into your 90s if you live that long and hedge against inflation and be there for healthcare. You need to be making, a solid return to keep up with those things and maybe expenses you'll have down the road. But at the same time, you need to replace that paycheck. So you also need reliable income, which is why so many Americans are concerned with it. Because here are most Americans with a good amount of money saved, at least in the DC metro area, a good amount of money saved. Most people that we see typically have at least 1 to 3 million that we see, and oftentimes more. So the amount of money that our potential clients have saved and that a lot of people in the DC metro area have saved is not the issue. It's the plan. It's like, how do we turn this big bucket into income that can replace our paycheck, especially if you don't have a pension? They used to call it the 3-legged stool. And back in the day, everyone would rely on a huge pension for a lot of their income. They would work for a company their entire career, sometimes 30, 40, 50 years, have a nice pension, lasted them for the rest of their lives, guaranteed, sometimes a survivor benefit. That was a lot of the income they were going to get in retirement. A little bit of Social Security on top and very little savings on top, because back in the day, before the 70s and 80s, 401ks, TSPs, IRAs, and all these things didn't even exist.
Right.
Where could you save? The bank, stock market, real estate, in your backyard, under your bed, in a tin can. I'm serious. I mean, we still have clients come in and they're like, yeah, Abe, I didn't tell you about my 20 grand that I have under my mattress or that's in my closet. Or we had one lady come in, seriously, no joke, from Western Loudoun, and she had like 20 to 30,000 of cold hard cash in her freezer.
What if her house burns down?
Well, that's why she had it in the freezer. She's like, Abe, if the house burns down, this should be the safest place for my cold hard cash because it won't burn down in the freezer. And that's a true story. But the point is, times have changed now. Pensions are almost a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Most people don't have pensions. Now the onus and the pressure and the responsibility is on us to make sure we've saved enough, typically in 401ks and IRAs and TSPs. If you don't have a pension, you don't have any guaranteed income in retirement other than your Social Security, unless you purchase an annuity type of product or something like that.
Right.
So if all you have is your Social Security and maybe a few $1 million on top of it, you probably will be okay, but you need to know how to make that income dependable. You need to know how to create more income that can sit on top of your Social Security checks, that can pay for all your mandatory non-discretionary expenses, your expenses that won't change throughout retirement. If you're paying a mortgage, or if your mortgage is paid off, you've got property taxes, you've got your bare minimum, Heather, that you need. You and your husband may say, well, no matter what happens, we'll always need at least $6,000 a month or
right.
$10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to create that $10,000? Well, part of it, and a good part of it, could be from Social Security. Mm-hmm. You may say, well, we've got $2,000 a month in Social Security each. Mm-hmm. That's 4 of the 10, right? You need another 6 gross from your 401ks and IRAs. How are you going to generate it if the 401k and IRAs and all the accounts you have are accumulation tools? Mm-hmm. Well, you need to change your strategy. You need to build in protection. You need to be able to generate income. You need both growth and income. Again, because you're in your 60s, you're about to retire. You got to replace part or a lot of your working paycheck. Social Security is not going to cut it, not going to replace it all.
Right.
So you need to be able to generate income in that plan, but also continue to grow it. So if you live in your 80s, into your 80s or 90s, it's there. So this is the issue that most pre-retirees have. They don't know how to solve it until they have a plan custom built for them by what we call, which we are ourselves, a phase 2 fiduciary retirement planning firm. You really want to work with a specialist, someone who specializes in working with people just like you all day long, 50s, 60s, 70s, with typically several $1 million saved or more, that knows what are the main risks that can mess up, that can foul up, potentially destroy the last 30 to 40, 50 years of your work, right? Well, one is making sure we have enough income to last us until we pass away.
Right.
Planning for healthcare, planning for higher taxes, planning for markets ups and downs, and all these things.
Yeah.
You're not even thinking about that stuff when you're 30, 40, and 50, really, because you have so far to go until you retire. And so what we find is our clients wake up in their mid to late 50s, early 60s, and they're like, I can actually take Social Security at 62.
Right.
I can hop on Medicare at 65. I can get that pension I've been waiting for at 65. Do I have enough saved? Can I make this work? And that's when typically a lot of people are checking it out and checking us out. Hey, we heard you on the radio. We see you on TV. We see you online. It looks like you are the specialist in this area, working with people my age with about the same amount of money that I have. How can you help us?
The idea about replacing our paycheck, obviously creating these guaranteed income streams, because Social Security within and of itself is vulnerable now to the dismay of many Americans.
Right.
The stock market has been on a bull run. Some people, I think, we're green. We've got that green color. We're a little bit greedy because it's just been so good for so long, but we don't really know what's going to happen. Have we learned nothing from the inflation conversation the past 3 or 4 or 5 years? There's just so much unpredictability. And I think really beyond income, the work that you do that's so important is to help people create plans. It's almost like even the unexpected, because there's so much that we can't predict. Nobody would have predicted inflation to be what it has become in the past few years. So how do you go about that conversation as well? It's like, yes, income's so important. Let's talk about that. But let's take it even one step further of all the unpredictability, all of the things that could happen. And some people living for 40 years in retirement now.
I think that's why it's so important to have a plan. And it sounds so simple, but most people don't. 9 out of 10 people that walk through our doors don't have one, which is why they come in. Even when you have a plan, stuff's going to happen. right? Emergencies are going to happen. Things might not go your way, exactly to a T 100% of the time, but you have a plan. So you have this foundation that you can depend on. You have a plan. You've talked about it several times throughout the year with your advisor. We meet with our clients 4 times per year, 4 conversations and meetings, reviewing performance, reviewing everything, when they're going to retire, people passing away, if you're getting sick, divorces, all kinds of life changes, to make sure that the plan is keeping up with your life changes. So even with a plan, things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a plan, though, and something to follow and track and measure and something to count on and depend on, the chances of success go through the roof, especially when you're monitoring it regularly. So that's what I would really encourage as we get into 2025. If you don't have a plan to help you transition into retirement, to replace that working paycheck, that working income that you were dependent on your entire career to save, to pay the bills, and to get to retirement, you need that same predictable, reliable income and a retirement plan, a comprehensive plan that covers much more than just income, to get the confidence you need to retire with dignity.
Obviously, working to help everybody that you meet. I like that idea. And let's increase your chance of success in retirement. You have made it to the retirement doorstep with millions of dollars in your pocket. You have been successful thus far. Let's continue this success by putting the proper plan in place. You don't have to go it alone. We know that there is a lack of financial literacy in this country, a big problem. Abe and his team here to help you through that. You don't have to go through it by yourself. So let's get to work. TheRetirementKey.com is the place to start the conversation with Abe and his team at Abish Financial Services. Of course, links, we got those posted in the show notes. As I was saying earlier, don't forget about getting a copy of the book to begin this conversation, begin educating yourself. We've got links to the book as well in our show notes, or you can find it all again on our website, TheRetirementKey.com.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich. To learn more about Abish Financial Services, visit TheRetirementKey.com and join Abe for his radio show, The Retirement Key, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m. Abish Financial Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and the content of this communication has not been approved or verified by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or by any state securities authority. The information contained in this material is intended to provide general information about Abish Financial Wealth Management and its services. It is not intended to offer investment advice. Investment advice will only be given after a client engages our services by executing the appropriate investment services agreement. Information regarding investment products and services are provided solely to read about our investment philosophy and our strategies.